Welcome into the DRF Sportsbook betting breakdown. Last week we promised you guys a fantastic week of Super Bowl previews, and we have you covered. We're bringing in the Iowa Wiseguys to help break down the big game, which way they're leaning, if they're on the Eagles minus 1.5 or the Chiefs plus 100 money line, what player props, what the MVP picks are. We're breaking down every single angle that there is to be broken down for the big game. And the Wiseguys, they were on last for the conference championship, and they gave us a lot of great bets. So welcome back, guys. How are you doing, Ryan and Nick?
Doing great.
Doing great, Jack. Hopefully going to give out some winners this time.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a lot of markets out there. We were talking off air about how there's over 1,500 different props, and depending on the state, we're in Iowa, of course, and DRF Sportsbook live in only Iowa, so we're kind of handcuffed in terms of what we are allowed to and not bet. But, I mean, you look at some of the different ones across the country, the different markets, you have different, Gatorade color, length of the national anthem. I'm not sure if that's on DRF Sportsbook. There's so many props on there, but length of the national anthem. There's length of the halftime show. Before we dive into the game itself, what are your guys' favorite weird props?
Go ahead, Ryan. You can start off.
It seems like they add more every year, but I like to do a little research, find out who's singing the national anthem, and bet on the over-under on the length of the national anthem is a fun one to have with the group I'm with. Sometimes we'll bet together. And the nice thing about it is you either win or lose right away. It's right away.
Yep.
Yeah, sometimes there's always inside information. Somebody's leaking something to the practice, the practice of the national anthem, the day of the game. People are scrambling to get that time. But I bet on the coin toss.
Same.
That's great. I was talking with a buddy about this. You either have money in your pocket to start the game, so you're just going to bet more in-game, or you lose and you're going to bet more in-game trying to get it back. So
Yep.
Betting early and often sets the tone for betting the entire Super Bowl.
Yeah, these are both props that I always bet every year. And my strategy for the national anthem, and this might not be the best way to strategize it. It's not looking at what's being leaked, nothing like that. It's always the over. This is their biggest moment in their career. They are going to soak up every single second of everything. Yeah. What was it? Aretha Franklin a few years back had like a 4-minute anthem and just crushed the over. Last year, the over hit. I mean, you always got to bet life's short, as everyone says. You got to always bet the over, especially when it comes to the national anthem.
That's a good strategy. I like that.
You got it. Same with halftime and things of that sort. If you're betting the set list, you have to. That's where you start leaking it. You go into their past. You go into the past performances, so like what their tour was right before, like the 2 weeks before, look at the set list. You can then bet what the opening song's going to be. There's a lot of different ways you can make money. Screw the game. I don't care what's happening between the sidelines. Give me all of these weird ones. That's where it's all made. But
we can be honest here. We all know that this year's halftime show isn't going to touch last year's halftime show. We all know that, right?
My hot take, I don't love halftime shows at the Super Bowl. I think they're my least favorite part of the game. So
I can't hear it. It's so loud. We have a party every year. I can't even hear what's going on. Yeah. But last year, everybody stopped to pay attention. Last year was quite the lineup.
Nothing compares to Michael Jackson and never will.
That was a little before my time, I think.
When he came up out of the corner of the stadium when they were played in Tampa Bay, that was a moment I'll never forget. Obviously, it was somebody imitating him because then seconds later he's on the center of the field. But
I was more of the Janet Jackson fan. I think she outdid Michael.
Yeah, a little Timberlake action with her up there having some fun. What Super Bowl was that? Was that Patriots Rams?
Oh God, I have no idea.
Panthers, something like that. All right, but
the Super Bowl of nipple flop gate.
Exactly. Hopefully we don't have nipple flop gate for Chiefs Eagles. Eagles favored by 1.5. Chiefs plus 100 on the money line. Eagles are minus 121 on the money line. Total set at 51. I think it's 50.5 at the time of recording technically, so kind of bouncing all over the place. But I want to get your guys' initial reactions to when this line came out to where it's sitting today.
Well, I think initially you said the Chiefs were favored, right? Is that what you said, Fitz? And now I know now the Eagles are -1.5. But you said initially Chiefs came out as the early favorite. Is that?
Let me double check that to make sure, because I want to say they were, and then it flipped quickly.
Yep.
No, I think you're correct. I'm just trying to verify. I'm not trying to contradict you. So,
oh no,
this is one where I'm not going to follow the movement too much or overread the book, what the book's doing. Again, at the end of the day, you just got to pick the team that's going to win. And so I won't beat around the bush. I'm on the Eagles. The Eagles to me are just the better team here. I'll get into the details of why, but I'll just get it right out there. I'm on the Eagles here to win this game, guys.
You and 68% of the public currently.
Well, all right. Call me General Public. Convince me otherwise. I open it to you, Nick. What are your thoughts here? We have not spoken before this show, Fitz. We saved it for you and DRF here to be as real as possible. So, what do you got, Nick?
Well, to get it out there, I do like the Eagles as well, and I do have some thoughts behind that play. But I do agree with Ryan. Some of the trends or some of the things that we talk about during the year, some of that stuff I throw out during the Super Bowl, because I think that obviously it's one of the most bet games of the year, if not, I mean, obviously the most bet sporting event of the year. And I think that some of those trends, it can drive some of those trends kind of a little bit bonkers. So I didn't really just like to look at it, figure out personally who I like, try to dive into the statistics of each team. And I think Philadelphia, for all the right reasons, has a very good opportunity to win this game. I think it's a bad matchup for Kansas City.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on a lot of things that we're going to hit on throughout this video, but I want to get your guys' take on how you bet this game, because like you said, this is the most bet on NFL game of the season. Everyone's targeting this. Sharps, the general public, someone who may never have bet before is hanging out with their buddies, especially on game day, because I imagine we'll probably see a little bit of a swing on game day with all just like random money coming in. Do you just trust your own handicapping, trust your own instincts when it comes to this game?
No doubt about it. Absolutely. I think you have to, because like you said, and I said earlier, I think that when it's the most bet sporting event of the year, you know, the public's going to play this game no matter who you are. And I think that the public has a disdain for the Kansas City Chiefs because of their success. And so I think it does drive people, regardless of who they are, to bet on Philadelphia.
Well, I have to, and as you can see here on our DRF YouTube channel, I'm a big Broncos fan. I have to admit, I might be a little biased here because of that. I do have anti-Chief blood in me. I can't stand the Chiefs or the Raiders. I actually don't mind the Chargers much, but anyway, I have to admit, yeah, I have some anti-Chief in me, but the Eagles to me have just been the most dominant team of the playoffs. I know that was an artificial win in some ways over San Fran because Brock Purdy was injured. They loaded the box. But all season long, this team has been racking up sacks in real games, real settings, not artificial by any means. Every game that Hurts has played, they've been dominant. And they, I think, are going to show Kansas City that it's Philly's year. And Kansas City, I think, you know, man, should have lost that game to Cincy. Cincy did not even play that well and still almost won that game, guys. Kansas City has not impressed me in either victory. Cincinnati, like I said, gave them that game. And the round before, they just kind of beat the Jaguars, who limped in after two games that they should not have won. So Kansas City has not impressed me at all. Philly really has impressed me in a nutshell. And that's the main reason, Fitz, that I'm on the Phillies in the big game here.
It's funny you say that, because the Eagles actually, to me, haven't impressed me too much in the playoffs. Not that I'm trying to discredit what the Giants did. They had a fantastic season. No one expected them to be in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, right? But it was Daniel Jones. It was Isaiah Hodgins as wide receiver 1. It was a bunch of no names. They didn't really have much on defense other than Adoree Jackson. They seem kind of banged up. I would hope the Eagles would go out there and just mollywop them across the field, and that's exactly what they did. And then, despite Brock Purdy going out in the first or second drive of that game, the 49ers kind of kept it close for a majority of that, where there was a point where you're just kind of sitting there and you're like, the Eagles should be up more than 2 scores right now. They've had the opportunity to go up 4, 5, 6 times. But with all that being said, the Chiefs also on the other side haven't necessarily impressed me. And it's all about winning. It's all about getting to the next game. And now you're in this game with a matchup of a good on good. You have the best passing offense in the playoffs taking on the best pass defense in the playoffs. And that's because of the front 7 of the Eagles. So I wanted to get your guys' take here. Who has the edge in this game? Eagles defense or Chiefs offense? Nick, if you want to jump this one off and kind of give your take on this one.
I think it goes without saying on my play. I think the Eagles defense, I think the midseason, the Eagles struggled early in the season to stop the run. But the second half of the season, they added Ndamukong Suh, they added Joseph. They kind of shored up the defensive line issues. Now they're able to stop the run. And if you look at Kansas City's offense, it was the opposite, right? They struggled to run the ball early. They didn't have a settled in running back. And when they obviously started to get Pacheco in there running the ball, they got a passing game going out of the backfield with McKinnon. Then they offense really started to move a lot. And I think the Eagles can shut down this run game that really sparked that Chiefs offense and force Patrick Mahomes to beat them with his arm, because obviously he's still not going to be 100% healthy with his ankle. He's going to be a lot healthier than he was against Cincinnati. But I still think he's going to have to beat him with his arm. I think Philadelphia can stop the run game, and I think that they have enough on the back end to keep those receivers in check. They're not going to let Travis Kelce beat them. They know if the Chiefs are going to win this game, Travis Kelce is going to have over 90 yards receiving, a touchdown or 2. He's going to have close to 10 catches. That's how the Chiefs beat you. If you can shut down Travis Kelce, you can win the game. And I think that they shut down the running game. I think those linebackers for Philadelphia can guard Kelce in the middle of the field. And I think Philadelphia has a recipe to victory.
Yeah, Ryan?
I agree with a lot of what Nick says. Well, essentially everything Nick said. Just to expand a little bit, looking at the whole game, when it comes down to this matchup, this is the one, like you said, Fitz, everyone's talking about Philly's D against the Kansas City offense, because that's the attractive one to talk about, right? That's their strengths. And I will, even though I like Philly for the game, in this head-to-head matchup of the Kansas City offense and the Philly D, I actually will give a slight edge to the Kansas City offense. But looking at the game as a whole, I think on the flip side, we're not talking a lot about the Philly offense against the Kansas City defense, but I think the margin there is greater.
Okay.
And that's why I like Philly. Even though I'll give the Kansas City offense a slight edge over the Philly D, like I said, it's just greater on the other side to me. So I think Philly wins. Philly's offense, I think, is going to have a fun time scoring at will against Kansas City. So that's why I think they win.
And we haven't even really talked about, Philadelphia has the top-ranked pass defense in the NFL. We haven't even talked about Slay and Bradbury. Yep. These guys are studs. So I really think that those guys can manage the outside, and it's going to allow a lot of resources to be over there on top of Travis Kelce. So I really think this Eagles defense is a tough matchup for Kansas City.
But Mahomes, his injury was kind of on our topic here, just kind of blends in here organically. His ankle is going to be even healthier, 2 weeks later. And that offensive line surprised me for Kansas City. I know I'm almost sound like I'm taking Kansas City here with all these points I'm making, but I'm just trying to be balanced. And I do think Kansas City's offense is going to have their moments in this game and score some points. I just think Philly's going to score more. So if we have to get exact about the science of the Philly D and the Kansas City offense, I'd maybe go like a 52-48 kind of deal, Kansas City offense. But on the flip side, I'd give the Philly offense like a 70-30 over the Kansas City defense.
Yeah. Kansas City's defense has been struggling in the playoffs. It's been struggling all season. And then with the red zone, I heard this little nugget earlier. Philly's the third best red zone offense in the entire NFL. Granted, Kansas City is second. But where the difference is really made is Kansas City's defense is 30th in red zone efficiency. They're allowing a touchdown, I believe. I wrote it down somewhere. Kansas City is allowing a red zone touchdown 65.6% of the time. So if you're getting into the red zone, you're scoring a touchdown on them. And the Eagles score a touchdown in the red zone 68% of the time. So, that's a matchup where I think Philly can really take advantage. But also, Steve Spagnuolo has proven he's a great defensive coordinator. So when you have one game and you just have to worry about, all right, we know they're going to get to the 1 yard line and do the old Jalen Hurts push into the end zone. Let's figure out a way to stop that. But for someone, Ryan, who came on at the beginning of this and said you have the Chiefs anti-hate, you have the Chiefs hate blood running through your veins.
Yeah,
I'm very surprised that you have this much Chiefs love going into it. What if I told you this? Chiefs offensive line has been fantastic, right? You said it surprised you. Their interior, especially, their interior is going to, I think, make running lanes. They're going to be able to hold up against Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. But their 2 tackles, man, have struggled just a little bit. And when now you're putting Josh Sweat, you're putting Hassan Reddick up against them. You're putting Graham, Hargrave, like all of these guys. I think we might see Patrick Mahomes running for his absolute life in this game on an 80% ankle.
I hope you're right. I want to watch him get.
I feel like I have to
all
convince
day.
you right now. I feel like I'm having to
I'm
convince you
No.
with to the Eagles, even though you're on the Eagles.
Yeah, you took the Eagles. Basically said the reason you're taking the Eagles because you hate the Chiefs, and then you made 6 points on why the Chiefs were going to compete in this game.
And I'm over here trying to feel like
Chiefs.
Yeah, we're trying to get you back onto the Eagles side, even though you never left this side. And if it's not a surprise too, I'm on the Eagles too. I actually came into prepping for this preview that we're doing right now. I came into it on the Chiefs. I thought for sure the Chiefs would be doing it. I thought the Eagles were getting way too much hype. And then I looked at like individual matchups, and I'm right there with you guys. I think the Eagles are just a better overall team.
Yeah, and after what you said about the Kansas City's horrible red zone defense, I am even more excited. That's why I was celebrating. I'm like, that's news. That's music to my ears. I'm going to go double my bet on Philly.
And you talked about it earlier, though, the wins, right? When you talk about these 2 teams in the playoffs, they haven't had these big wins. Obviously, the biggest win of any of these teams was Kansas City's win over Cincinnati. And Cincinnati, I can tell you, that was one of the worst games Cincinnati has played in several months. And for them to have a chance to win that game playing that poorly with the injury to Tyler Boyd and then 3 offensive linemen out, those offensive linemen that played really well against Buffalo did not play well against Kansas City. They got dominated.
Yeah.
And for Kansas City to win that game late, I'll tell you, it doesn't, to me, that does not show that this is a Kansas City Chiefs team that we're accustomed to seeing. I really like Philadelphia.
And this QB matchup, before we move on, I do have to throw this in there. I have to back up Ryan a little bit with his Chiefs love that we're all now learning about. Jalen Hurts hasn't been playing great as a quarterback in the playoffs, right? And I know it's because this data is skewed a little bit, and I'm going to preface with that. I mean, they got up big on the Giants, so he didn't have to throw a lot. Nothing was asked of Jalen Hurts. Against the 49ers, they could have just run the entire game, and they still would have won that game 38-7. So there hasn't been a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts. He also hasn't performed well with not a lot of pressure. Does it worry you at all going into the Super Bowl that he's kind of been throughout these playoffs? Or do you think you kind of have to throw out the data that we've seen to this point?
Well, I can kick this one off. I think you throw all that out. I think this is going to be Jalen Hurts' day. I think as he said, he's not hungry, he's starving for this moment. So, he is a big time competitor and expects to win at the highest level. I mean, he left Alabama, because somebody else came in and won the national championship, in the second half. I mean, this guy doesn't mess around. And then he went to Oklahoma and won the Heisman. So I expect a great day for Jalen Hurts and Philadelphia, and I can't wait to win a bunch of money on him.
Nick, what do you think about that?
I don't put a whole lot of stock into it, to be honest with you. I think Jalen Hurts is a gamer, and I think that when the lights are on, he does what he has to do. And you said it, he hasn't been pushed to really shine, to have to carry the team on his back. And he's been coming back from an injury, so I think they've really limited what they have to do with him. So he'll be 2 weeks healthier here in the Super Bowl, and I think they're going to need him to have a big game, and I think he does. He's my Super Bowl MVP pick. Jalen Hurts.
Man, that was a perfect segue. I was going to do player props next, but I guess if we're segueing that well, we got to do quick MVP picks, or I guess not quick. We already know Nick. So Ryan, who's your MVP and why?
I also am on Jalen Hurts because I'm sticking with my theory from the show we did a couple weeks ago that there's more value in taking the winning team's quarterback to be MVP than there is on that team on the money line, especially in this instance. Philly is around minus 120, minus 125 on the money line, whereas Hurts to be MVP is plus 130. So you're in positive money. And obviously other people have the potential, but I'm fairly confident that if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts will be the MVP, because I think they're going to score both on the ground and through the air, and all that ties back to Jalen Hurts.
On a quick side note, I think it is so interesting that at DRF Sportsbook, Jalen Hurts and Mahomes both are plus 130 to win the Super Bowl, to win the MVP, and yet you would think Mahomes would be like plus 200, plus 250, because the Chiefs aren't favored. So I don't know if our odds makers think there's a better possibility that Mahomes will go out there and throw for 500. Okay, hit me.
Or my view is, okay, you would expect, like you said, Mahomes to be a slightly higher payout because the Chiefs are a slight underdog. However, I think what they're saying is that if the Chiefs do win, because they're not a huge underdog, just a slight underdog, I think what they're saying with those numbers is if the Chiefs do win, Mahomes is even more guaranteed than Hurts is to be the MVP if his team wins. If the Eagles win, there's probably a little more chance for another guy to slip in, like Sanders, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Whereas I think they're just saying, if the Chiefs win, it's Mahomes, dude.
That makes a lot of sense. But going back to what Nick was saying earlier about Travis Kelce, if the Chiefs need to win this game, it's going to be through a 10-catch, 150, maybe not that many, but around 120 plus yards and a touchdown or two. To me, that stat line tells me Travis Kelce wins the MVP. And so I think, me personally, I'm kind of going the anti of what you guys are doing, where you're targeting the quarterbacks because that team's quarterback will most likely win the MVP. I'm looking at the value of it, and I like Travis Kelce to win, and I also like Hassan Reddick because I think there's a strong chance he's going to eat on the edge and account for 3 sacks, a forced fumble, maybe a fumble recovery. And we saw that type of performance with Malcolm Smith. And sorry, again, not to bring this up twice in one preview session, but in Super Bowl, 48 with the Seahawks-Broncos, Malcolm Smith had himself a fantastic game and won the MVP. But then again, Von Miller won it with you 2 years later, so you can't complain too much.
I'm with Jack. I think Mahomes deservedly needs to be a little higher on that, maybe even up to 160, 170. And I understand what you're saying there, Ryan, but the odds don't show that either because the third lowest odds are Travis Kelce. So, to me, Mahomes should be a little bit higher than that. But the reason I like Jalen Hurts is because I really feel like he's going to have to put Philly on his back. And I think he makes some plays with his legs. I think that's going to be the deciding factor in this game is you're going to see Jalen Hurts when the lights come on and he knows he's got to run, because Chris Jones and Frank Clark, they'll get in the backfield. They're going to get theirs. They're going to put some pressure on him. And I think that he's going to have to make some plays with his legs, and I think he's going to.
From just a pure value standpoint, Fitz, great picks. I think that you've got there 12-1 on Kelce, 30-1 on Reddick. Great value, especially if your big money's on other players that are more likely, so to speak. Nick, just to come back to your comment about Kelce being the next one, so my point doesn't hold up. My point does hold up because then the next 4 players behind Kelce to be MVP are all Eagles. Back to my point about multiple opportunities to steal it from Hurts. But anyway, I think that there's a lot of value there on your picks, Fitz. I don't think it's the most likely. That's all.
Yeah, 100%. It's not. I live and die by going 5-leg parlays because I'm always looking to make my $1 bet, my $10 bet turn into $1,500.
But what a great way to have a small head. I mean, have a hedge on your Philly play is to put some money on those guys. I like it.
So we're moving from MVPs to player props, and I think this is the most robust area where I think people make their money in the Super Bowl. It's not the game. There's so many markets out there, right? Like there's so many prop bets you can make, whether it's player props, game props, weird props that we were talking about at the top, that you can find value here. What Vegas projected odds are compared to like what the actual odds are. There's some places here that you can actually find value if you're willing to scroll through 2,000 different market 2,000 different props here. So what are some player props or just overall props that you guys are targeting? Nick, if you want to start it off, because I know you seemed really excited. Well, both of you guys seemed really excited to break this down, but I'll let Nick take the floor first here.
Well, this kind of ties into what we were talking about, is making prop bets early in the game. I always like to bet on the opening kickoff as well. And I'm going to play opening kickoff, not a touchback, plus 125 on DRF Sportsbook. You know, I think that the attitude, you know, you're in the Super Bowl, you're catching that opening kickoff, you're coming out of the end zone, baby. You're going to try to make a play right away. That's what everybody wants to see. That's what your team wants to see. You're telling your boys, like, hey, I don't care if this is 8 yards deep, man. It's coming out. So let's go. Like, get your blocks, and I'm rolling because this thing's coming out. Mama's out. Mama's in the stands. She's watching her boy play in the Super Bowl. This ball is coming out.
Same reason Fitz and I are taking the over in the national anthem. It's 9.
Yep, exactly.
This is fun. The props on the Super Bowl, you know, brings out all the amateurs. It's kind of like New Year's, you know, brings out the amateur drinkers. The Super Bowl props bring out your amateur bettors. But it's a fun chance to just play around, and you can win some good money. One that I think here that is exciting and is a real chance here to win some real money on DRF under their package, some of their specials. They have one that is A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith to be the first touchdown scorer, and it is plus 450. I love it. Give it to me for a couple units. I think Philadelphia is going to score the first touchdown of the game, and I expect it to be a touchdown pass. So I love this prop that DRF is offering. A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith to be the first touchdown scorer plus 450.
I'm down with that.
I dig that one. Do you think it matters at all if the Eagles get the ball first? Do you think – because –
well, that highlights the importance of live betting, Fitz.
Yeah.
You're watching the game live. You put this in before the game, which another topic. Who's going to be the first sports betting app to put a breathalyzer on this app deal? I mean, right? These bet, you know, you win the national anthem, you win the first half. Oh shit, what kind of props can I get in the second? You know,
was that first touchdown or was that first score?
First touchdown to be Devontae Smith or AJ Brown plus 450.
That seems like some really solid value.
I thought so.
Any other props you guys are targeting?
Oh yeah, another one that I really like and is kind of a way to look at a. Okay, so if you look at, for some of our beginners, a standard 2-team parlay pays out around plus 260, depending on the odds. If both bets are minus 110 bets, a 2-team parlay is around plus 260. All right, there's a bet out there that is essentially a 2-team parlay at plus 325. It is for Travis Kelce and the running back for the Eagles, Sanders, to score touchdowns at any time in the game. They are both negative money to score at any time. One's minus 108, the other one's minus 116, something like that. So it's essentially a 2-team parlay that should pay around plus 260. You're getting it at plus 325 for Kelce and Sanders both to score at any time.
I dig that one too.
Yeah, I like that too, man. That's kind of creative there. That's pretty cool. I like it. Another play that I play frequently in the Super Bowl is over 2.5 players to attempt a pass. And on DRF Sportsbook, it's plus 130. You know, typically you get some kind of razzle dazzle. You get kind of the Philly special. You get something kind of creative, get somebody else to throw a pass. So I do like that play. I usually do play that. And I think plus 130 is a lot of value. So over 2.5 players to throw a pass. And that could be a quarterback injury. That could be, obviously, you know, a reverse pass or a halfback pass. So, yeah, I like that. There's a lot of value there, plus money.
What are your guys' thoughts on a safety to occur? I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I always like that one. Because, granted, it hasn't won me a lot of money as of late, but there was a stretch there for 3 years. Super Bowl 40, 6, 7, and 8. There was a safety in each one of those. There's only been a safety recorded in 5 Super Bowls. So you can get a little value on it, but will it happen? Probably not. I just want to get your guys' feelings on a safety to happen, yes or no.
That's a hard no for me.
Yeah, I'm taking the no.
What about an even crazier one? And this one's under special offers on DRF Sportsbook. So the very last tab of props. The game to end in a scoregami. So a score that has never happened before. It's never happened in a Super Bowl. It only happened 3 times throughout the entire season. So what's that? Over 500 games. It only happened 3 times. For it to end in a scoregami, plus 1,500. For it not to end in a scoregami is minus 10,000.
Well, I'll be frank. I think the scoregami thing is awesome. I think that's a cool thing, and I've shown it to a lot of people that really are interested. And I think it's kind of a neat way to have some fun. So, why not?
See, that's my take on some Super Bowl props. It's always why not?
Why not? Why not throw a little bit of pizza money on that?
Yeah.
So
I think it's neat.
What do you like to do specifically with it?
With which? What do you mean?
Well, explain to our listeners what this scoregami deal is all about. I mean,
yeah. So scoregami never has it happened before. This score's never happened before. So every year that pool gets smaller and smaller and smaller because this year we had 3 that ended in scoregami. The Seahawks-Lions game was one of them. The Bengals-Patriots, which actually ended at 22-18. Surprisingly, that score had never happened before. And there's one other. I forgot what it was. But
so the payout must just continually go up then if it becomes more and more unlikely to happen. Yep. What's it at now? What are we talking? I mean,
we're talking plus 1,500 for it to happen. I think last year we offered this same market and it was around plus probably 1,300, I want to say. So the odds have shifted a little bit. I
sound ignorant. For as long as I've been doing sports betting, I've never done the scoregami thing. Thanks for you learn something every day. Keep learning, guys.
It's insane. I don't think it'll happen, but it's a fun little one to keep an eye on. It's kind of like a safety. It probably won't happen, but I'll throw $1 on a safety to happen, and if it hits, it makes up for all of my other losses that I'm bound to have throughout the entire Super Bowl.
You're right. You got to have fun with these props. You got to have some fun with these things, man. And you're watching the game. I mean, something crazy happens. It's a Super Bowl. Something always happens. It's just, not supposed to happen. It's just a kind of a goofy game. And it's fun to have these props. I mean, I'm telling you, I'll send a list out of probably about, I don't know, anywhere from 7 to 8 props on the day of. Just fun things. And scoregami is going to be part of it.
Love it. So any other props before we get up on out of here? Any other crazy MVP picks, anything like that, or any final words you want to leave us out on why the Eagles are going to dominate the Chiefs and win by 14?
I will tell you, I do think I like also under, there's not a lot of value in this, but I like under 1.5 interceptions. And, I think that's hovering around minus 160-ish or so. But, Patrick Mahomes, I don't know that he, typically not a huge turnover machine. Jalen Hurts, same way. I just don't think there's going to be a whole lot of turnovers in this game. So I like under 1.5 interceptions.
I don't have any other crazy ones, Fitz. I would just encourage people, if you want to bet more, then also take the Phillies in the first half. Take the Phillies in the first quarter. I mean, not the Phillies, the Eagles, sorry.
I knew what you meant. We
knew what you meant.
We were following along. Yeah, you're good.
Just load up on the Eagles, guys.
I mean, if you could bet the Phillies to score in the first quarter, the odds on that, the value there must be amazing.
I can tell you which way it's going to go, though.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time out, coming on, talking all things Super Bowl, the big game, whichever word we want to use to describe it here in the sports betting universe. But before we get up on out of here, if you guys want to plug away, let everyone know where they can find you when it's not here on the DRF Sportsbook YouTube channel, and where they can find you on social media.
We're the Iowa Wiseguys. I'm Ryan David. On Twitter, I'm at WiseGuysRyan. Nick is at WiseGuysNick. Nick is hosting a big Super Bowl party. He always has. I'm going to be up in Webster City. Nick will be in Belle Plaine. And Fitz, we got to work this out, but we want to do a little live stream action from the two houses and see, get a little back and forth action going and do some specials on Super Bowl Sunday.
We love it. Yeah, we'll talk and figure that out because there's a few moving parts to that bad boy, but something that we can definitely tackle and figure out. I
mean, we've been on DRF twice, 2 shows, Fitz, and Lee Ryan has put you on the spot twice now.
It's expected now. I know when I hand the floor over at the end, it's going to be a boost. It's going to be something. We had the Joe Burrow boost up, but we got it up, and he kind of for
awesome.
our own sake over here at DRF Sportsbook, they ended up losing the game, so we kind of got away with that one because I think if the Bengals were playing in the Super Bowl, we'd be sweating a little bit over here at DRF Sportsbook.
Plus 390 odds on Joe Burrow win Super Bowl MVP if Cincinnati was playing would be a very interesting night for the odds makers.
We'd be twiddling our thumbs watching that game very intently, hoping that the over 1.5 interceptions would hit on Joe Burrow only. But we avoided that, so we're all good. So thank you guys so much for coming on. Check them out on Twitter, on wherever you guys find podcasts. Check out the Iowa Wiseguys, and be sure to use their promo code WISE1000 at sign up. 100% deposit match up to $1,000. So something you do not want to miss out on. Thank you guys.
Thanks,
Jack. Appreciate you, man.